So you were talking about the dulcimer. Are you a dulcimer player first or acoustic guitar player first?
Guitar.
Guitar first?
Yeah. I picked up the Dulcimer in 95. And I had it for a long time and didn't, I wrote a few songs on it, but I didn't play it that much. I only really started working on it to get better at it around, 2005 or so, 2004. Yeah. But when we started this band, I played it a lot more.
So what attracted you to the dulcimer specifically?
That's a good question. I heard it in the 80s. I heard some so the first wave of new age music when it got a bad rap, but it was, some of that stuff was really interesting when it first came out. So I think I heard Malcolm Dalglish playing solo dulcimer, and it has a childlike quality. That's the first word that comes to mind. It evokes a really different state of moods, innocence. It takes me to places where the guitar doesn't in the same innocence, but also a kind of austerity, a kind of Apollonian quality too, like it can be kind of stark, and I just love the resonance that the notes bleeding into each other. I've just upgraded. I just got a bigger dulcimer last year, which has a mute pedal, so it goes quite low. So it's a different world now. There's gonna be more coming up. I've used it on some of the second Repetitions album.
Oh, sweet. I do want to ask you about that. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you about. You mentioned earlier that you're kind of burned out. Those aren't necessarily your words, but you're kind of burned out on the whole bluegrass or Appalachian music thing. And one of the things that I noticed about this record that does stand out from the earlier ones is that there's a definite Eastern sound to it. Was that consciously like, I'm going to explore other folk traditions, or how did that come about?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I guess, yeah, you'd have to tell me what you're referring to. It's not deliberate. And I should say that I'm only burned on I don't listen to certain aspects of it as much, but I like the Punch Brothers quite a bit.
I love the Punch Brothers.
Discovered them through your show, actually.
Oh, that's terrific.
So I think that, and I was listening to a Chris Steele interview where he was saying something about that sort of great music is, in a category, it's sort of its own genre. It kind of goes beyond genre, and I think that's descriptive of how I hear them. For example, I love it's truly a great. There's something to the bluegrass, trio or quartet or that basic combination of instruments without percussion there's a magic to that.
Totally.
But I'm not interested in the genre. I'm interested in Punch Brothers are a perfect example of the magic still being present in in that instrumentation.
Yeah.
And I played a little mandolin. I think that brings a little more in there than there used to be, simply because Kate gave it to me. She had a mandolin and was playing it on some of our stuff. And when she moved to New York, I said, I don't really want this anymore. You can have it. So I'm like, okay, here it comes. Can't resist it. Sitting around, I'm gonna put it in on all the recordings. I love the sound of the mandolin. I'm really a horrible mandolin player, so it's very simple stuff. But I also have a lot of Tull in my background, so that sort of mandolin, that sort of clean mandolin guitar sound goes deep with me. But I'm not sure what the Eastern influence is. I think you might be thinking of the end of When the Door Opens. There's a violin. Yeah, I'm not sure. And then I also use the guzheng a little bit because I have it. Again, I have it, so I'm going to use it. It's an interesting sound. It is an Asian instrument.
I'm more referring to the scales. And the keys, like I specifically, what stands out in my mind is the beginning of 22. Has sort of an Eastern scale to it, and maybe it wasn't conscious, and that's why you're not quite understanding what I'm referring to. But I've become like for instance, you were one of the first times that I heard the dulcimer, and knew it was a dulcimer. Like I listened to Richard Thompson, and I knew he used dulcimer. I was familiar with the name, but that's like the first time I saw a dulcimer and heard it, in that, in a context where I knew what it was. And after that, it was like I was picking out dulcimer from everything. I was hearing it in other places. Oh, is that a dulcimer? So it's sort of the same with Eastern music. I've become more aware of it, I guess, and I've begun picking it out in different places.
Well, I mean, it's not, it's I guess you could call it modal, but it's not, doesn't have any of the quarter tones or anything like that that you would see here in Arabic music. Or and actually, Emily did play in an Arabic band for a while and was learning those scales, but we never. So we both spent a lot of time listening to that traditional and more contemporary Arabic music. But so maybe it got in there unconsciously, but we didn't deliberately detune or anything like that. But but there's maybe something of the orchestration in that, because when I was writing that, I think was around the time that she either had just stopped doing that or was still doing it, which tends to be more heterophonic. There's instruments are playing the same line in different octaves in unison, but one might be ornamenting and some of the other ones might not be. So you get these moments of polyphonic sort of harmonic resonances, but it's mostly it's a very clean sound, and it's really appealing too. I think it's different when you have it, the big unison line, and it kind of takes you on a journey when everyone's playing it, as opposed to like some rhythm section just laying it down and somebody's doing the fast line above it. I think you're more grounded. It's ungrounding in an exciting way to me, and I hear that in Arabic music, where there's often no bass. You just have the dumbek doing the low, filling in the low frequencies, and then the low notes on the oud.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Tull, and I realized that we've never talked Tull. So
no.
So perhaps you could tell me what your favorite Tull records are, favorite Tull songs are.
Well, I get the sense that you and I have similar backgrounds in that, because earlier you were talking about when you were 3, and it does go back that far. My dad had wore out several copies of Thick as a Brick.
Beautiful.
On vinyl when I was, before I was born, and so it was kind of ambiently around the house, and I loved it. Side 1 in particular, he would just kind of put it on, and I called it, I'm talking about when I was like 2 or 3, really small, and I called it the Boom Boom record, because at the end of side 1 there's the ding ding ding.
Yeah. Well,
he would he had a little kind of masochistic side, and he would sadistic side, and he would turn it up to maximum volume, and I would like scream and run around the house. But of course I loved it, and that stuff, like the sound of the Hammond organ on that album, John Evans, the sound of the rhythm section, and the acoustic guitars coming in and out of full band heavier stuff, just like that. It just kind of turns on a dime, and the complexity and the richness of the lyrics. It's almost seemed kind of Dickensian to me, that like the early Ian Anderson before he kind of went. I mean, I like later 70s stuff too, but he was really powerful, sort of sardonic social critic these days, and I love the lyrics to that album in particular. Talking about the Old Boy Network, and I thought it was yeah. So I grew up with that, and I continued to listen to it and get more out of it straight through Cull. And it continues to be one of my favorite, formative albums.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like I like other things. I got a lot out of Songs from the Wood and Heavy Horses. Minstrel in the Gap. I mean, I know the whole catalog. He's it goes, except for the couple albums, goes pretty deep with me.